I was meant to sleep in the guest room, but she whispered, "My bed is warmer." The station hovered silently above a small blue and green planet, its metal surface gleaming under the distant sun. This was not his first time visiting an alien station, but the feeling of awe never left him. Every time he came to a new place, he reminded himself that humans had a way of noticing things others overlooked, and that alone often made a difference. He was greeted by soft lights along the corridor, which pulsed gently as he walked. The station itself was alive with subtle energy, not dangerous, not threatening, just aware. At least that was how Eli described it to himself. Aliens, though sophisticated, often ignored the little things humans noticed. Small patterns, faint sounds, or the warmth in someone's behavior. Eli had always believed these were where humans shined. A figure approached at the far end of the corridor. She was tall, graceful, and moved with an elegance that made Eli almost forget to breathe. Her hair shimmered faintly in shades he couldn't name, like sunlight through crystal. "Welcome, Eli," she said, her voice soft but firm, carrying authority without demanding it. "I am Lyra, lead scientist of the station." "Thank you, Doctor." "Lyra," Eli replied, keeping his tone respectful. "It's an honor to be here." Lyra tilted her head slightly, studying him. Eli felt her gaze like a warm light, not probing, not invasive, but curious. Humans often knew how to make connection without force. Somehow, Eli could feel that she respected that instinct. "Your accommodations have been prepared," Lyra said, nodding toward a nearby door. "The guest quarters are functional, standard protocol." Eli glanced at the door. It looked sterile, almost clinical, but it was clean and organized. Functional was better than nothing, he reminded himself. Still, before he could reply, Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "But," she said, "if you prefer a more comfortable setting, you may stay in my quarters. I find they are warmer." Eli blinked. Humans were sometimes bold, he reminded himself. But this wasn't a casual invitation, it was deliberate. The warmth in her tone suggested she trusted him, something the aliens usually did only after long observation. Thank you," Eli said. His voice caught slightly, but he recovered quickly. "I'd be honored." Lyra nodded and gestured toward her quarters. "Come then. You may find it enlightening." As they walked, Eli observed the corridors. The walls pulsed with soft blue light, patterns shifting in ways that seemed almost like thought. He reached out to touch one, curious, but Lyra's hand brushed lightly against his arm, stopping him. "Not yet," she said with a faint smile. "These things respond better to observation than touch, at first." Eli nodded. Humans were often praised for their patience in the right moment, their ability to wait and watch before acting. It was a small skill, but one he used often in his work, and apparently it was rare among aliens. Her quarters were at the very end of the main hallway. When the door slid open, Eli felt a warmth that had little to do with temperature. The room was elegant but lived in. Books and devices were neatly arranged, holographic displays floated silently, and in the center, a bed glowed softly with a gentle ambient light. "Please, make yourself comfortable," Lyra said, stepping back. Her eyes lingered on him with a mix of curiosity and trust. "I find that sometimes new perspectives arrive when one is relaxed. The mind opens when the body is at ease." Eli smiled. Humans understood the importance of comfort, sometimes more than the most logical aliens did. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Being relaxed, being allowed a moment of ease, often unlocked creativity and insight. He set down his bag and approached the bed. It was not just soft, it seemed alive in some way, almost humming with quiet energy. Eli felt a strange pull, as if the bed itself wanted him to rest and think. He sat at the edge, testing it, and felt the warmth seep through him, not just physically but mentally. Lyra stepped closer, her hand pointing to a small device on the nightstand. "That light," she said, "is a multi-dimensional interface. You may examine it, but carefully. It responds to touch and thought together." Eli leaned closer. The device emitted a faint glow, patterns shifting as if alive. He could feel the possibilities within it, pathways to understanding, hints at knowledge the aliens themselves had yet to fully comprehend. Eli's curiosity sparked. Humans were known for touching the unknown with intuition, sometimes succeeding where precision alone failed. "May I?" he asked softly, reaching toward it. Lyra nodded. "Observe first. Let it respond to you." Eli placed his fingers gently on the device. Immediately, holographic symbols and maps unfolded in the air above it. He gasped quietly, the complexity was staggering. The device seemed to respond to his thoughts, aligning patterns in ways that felt almost instinctual. The aliens had studied this for decades, yet Eli's human mind saw connections they hadn't noticed. Small, intuitive leaps, lateral thinking. This was the strength of humanity. He traced a sequence with his finger and the symbols shifted, forming a path across unknown star systems. Lyra watched him quietly. Her expression softened, a hint of admiration in her alien features. She had seen many researchers struggle, yet here was a human, navigating with ease where others would falter. "You understand it," she said, almost in wonder. "Not like we do. You see it differently." Eli smiled faintly, aware of the unspoken truth. Humans had a way of seeing what was hidden in plain sight. Curiosity, intuition, and patience, a combination that often left other species baffled. He spent some time exploring, tracing patterns and watching the holographic stars rearrange. Every so often, Lyra offered subtle guidance, but mostly she observed. Eli could feel the trust she placed in him, the quiet confidence that humans, once given the chance, could unlock things even the most advanced aliens could not. After a while, he reclined on the bed. The soft warmth seemed to embrace him, yet his mind raced with possibilities. Every human, he thought, had a spark like this, the ability to perceive the world differently, to find solutions in spaces others ignored. Lyra leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching him with quiet fascination. "I wondered," she said after a pause, "if a human mind could unlock the patterns here. It seems I was right." Eli chuckled softly. "Sometimes it's not just the mind, it's the willingness to try things that seem impossible. Humans have a habit of ignoring limits." "Limits," Lyra echoed almost thoughtfully. "I think that is what makes you different, and perhaps why I offered you this bed." Eli raised an eyebrow. "The bed," she smiled, a faint curve that made the corners of her eyes crinkle. "Comfort allows clarity, warmth allows insight. And humans seem to notice that instinctively." Eli leaned back, letting the warmth seep into his muscles. He had expected a guest room, cold, functional, perhaps even isolating. Instead, he found himself in a place that encouraged discovery, curiosity, and connection. And somehow, he knew this night would be the beginning of something extraordinary. He watched the holographic symbols drift above the interface, feeling a subtle excitement. Humans had a way of stepping into the unknown, of seeing what others could not. And tonight, in Lyra's quarters, Eli realized that simple intuition, a willingness to follow curiosity, could open doors no alien technology alone could unlock. The night stretched ahead, filled with quiet light and gentle hums of the station. And Eli, in a bed meant for comfort, felt the pulse of possibilities, the warmth not just of the sheets, but of human ingenuity ready to illuminate the path ahead. And in the distance, the soft glow of the device promised adventures beyond imagination, waiting for a human touch to guide them. Eli woke to a soft hum in the room. The ambient light of Lyra's quarters shifted gently as if greeting him. He had expected the usual guest room sterility, the cold metal walls, the unfeeling lights, but instead he felt a quiet pulse of life, not alien life exactly, but the subtle warmth of thought and attention. The bed beneath him had adjusted perfectly to his body overnight. He smiled quietly. Humans had a way of noticing comfort where others overlooked it. He stood and approached the device on the nightstand. Last night he had merely traced patterns, letting his fingers dance over the glowing interface, but this morning he felt ready to explore more deeply. Lyra was already standing nearby, observing him with calm patience. "Good morning, Eli," she said. Her voice carried the kind of warmth that made even the coldest station feel welcoming. "You slept well, I trust." "Better than I expected," Eli replied with a grin. "Your quarters are unusual, but in a good way." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Unusual is sometimes necessary for discovery. You humans often succeed where others fail, simply because you look at things differently." Eli nodded. Humans were curious by nature, and curiosity often carried them further than logic alone. It was a trait the aliens respected but rarely understood. "I'd like to try something," he said, reaching toward the device. Lyra nodded. "Proceed. Observe first. Let the interface guide you." Eli touched the glowing surface, feeling a gentle vibration under his fingers. The symbols from last night floated above, but this time they shifted more dynamically, responding not just to touch but to the thought behind it. It was like the device was alive, and Eli realized something remarkable. It seemed to respond to intuition. Logical sequences alone could not unlock its patterns. Only a mind willing to see possibilities, to ask, "What if?" instead of just following rules, could interact fully. Humans had this kind of thinking naturally. Eli traced a sequence of patterns, imagining connections the aliens had overlooked. Colors and shapes rearranged themselves, forming a map that seemed to stretch across unknown star systems. Lyra watched silently, her eyes wide with fascination. "You see it differently," she said. "The aliens have studied this for decades, yet you find links we could not perceive." Eli smiled faintly. "Sometimes it's not about knowledge. It's about asking the right question at the right moment. Humans have a habit of following curiosity wherever it leads." The map revealed points of interest, planets that had not been charted, anomalies in spacetime, and locations that seemed to radiate some kind of energy. Eli's pulse quickened. This was not just an interface. It was a doorway to knowledge, waiting for someone who could interpret it. "What do you make of it?" Lyra asked, her voice quiet with awe. Eli tilted his head, studying the floating symbols. "It's a guide," he said slowly, "to places no one has mapped. But it's not just a map, it's a puzzle. Whoever created this left patterns designed to be understood by someone who could think differently." "Differently," Lyra echoed. She glanced at him, and for a moment there was a spark of understanding between them. "Do you mean humans?" Eli nodded. "Yes, humans see connections that others might dismiss. We follow intuition. We look for patterns that aren't obvious. Sometimes that's all it takes to unlock something incredible." Lyra stepped closer. "Then perhaps this interface was meant for you." Eli blinked. The idea seemed almost absurd. Could an alien device truly be designed with a human mind in mind? And yet, here he was, navigating it with ease while the station's own scholars had struggled for years. He focused again, letting his mind explore possibilities. The interface responded, highlighting a sequence that seemed to form a path to a distant star cluster. Eli traced it carefully, feeling a thrill at the thought of the unknown. "Do you see this?" he asked Lyra. "It's not just coordinates. These are locations that may hold knowledge or perhaps civilizations that are hidden. Whoever made this, they wanted it found." Lyra's eyes shimmered. "Hidden knowledge, and you can reach it because of your human perspective." Eli felt a quiet pride. Humans had always been underestimated by more advanced species. Yet, time and again, their ability to adapt, to perceive, and to imagine had led them to achieve what others could not. He realized that was exactly what was happening now. They spent hours exploring the interface together. Eli traced new patterns, discovered anomalies in the projections, and slowly began to piece together what seemed like an ancient map of the galaxy. Lyra offered insights, but mostly she observed, clearly amazed at his intuition. You do not rush, she noted. You allow the symbols to speak before reacting. That is uncommon. Eli shrugged. Humans have a habit of listening before acting, and sometimes the most important discoveries come from patience. As the day progressed, Eli noticed subtle details the aliens had ignored. A faint resonance in the patterns suggested energy fields around certain planets. Some symbols seemed to align with the positions of stars in ways that indicated potential habitable zones. Eli's excitement grew. This could change how the station approached exploration entirely. Lyra leaned against the wall, watching him with quiet admiration. You bring a warmth to this process, Eli, not just in thought but in approach. You consider context, relationships, and timing, things we often overlook. Eli paused, realizing she was speaking not just about the device, but about humans themselves. This warmth, the ability to combine logic with empathy and intuition, was something he had always taken for granted. Yet here, in the presence of advanced aliens, it made a tangible difference. He smiled. I suppose humans do have their strengths. Lyra laughed softly, a sound that seemed almost musical. Indeed, perhaps more than we realized. As the day moved toward evening, Eli and Lyra had traced a path across the galaxy, identifying several locations of interest. Each new discovery felt like a step into the unknown, but one guided by intuition and insight. Eli reclined on the bed again, the soft warmth cradling him. He looked at the glowing interface and realized how remarkable it was that a simple touch, combined with a curious mind, could unlock so much. Humans had a way of connecting dots that others ignored, a combination of imagination, patience, and empathy that made them uniquely powerful. Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on the edge of the device. Do you think these places can be reached? Eli considered this. With effort, yes, but more importantly, they can be understood. Humans are good at understanding the unknown, not just navigating it. That is how we survive, how we thrive, how we leave a mark. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. And perhaps that is why I invited you here. I sensed someone like you was needed, someone human. Eli's chest warmed at her words, but it was more than flattery. He realized that his presence, his curiosity, and his willingness to explore were valued in a way that went beyond cultural norms or protocols. Humans had a way of stepping into places others overlooked and leaving a mark without demanding it. As night fell on the distant planet below, the interface shimmered softly. Eli traced one final sequence, revealing a glowing point of light far beyond the mapped stars. It pulsed gently as if acknowledging his attention. Lyra, he said, pointing to it, look at this. It's unlike anything in the station's database. Someone or something left this, and I think we can understand it. She leaned closer, eyes wide. You mean humans can interpret it? Eli nodded. Yes, not with force or logic alone, but with curiosity. Humans have a way of noticing the unseen, listening to the quiet, and trusting what feels right. Lyra smiled, a quiet pride shining in her gaze. Then perhaps this is just the beginning. With you here, Eli, we may discover more than we ever imagined. Eli leaned back, letting the warmth of the bed cradle him. He felt the pulse of possibilities, each one a thread waiting for a human mind to follow. And in that moment, he understood something fundamental. Humans had always thrived by curiosity, by intuition, and by daring to see what others could not. And now, on this distant station, that same warmth of curiosity was opening doors to the stars. Eli woke early, the soft hum of the station still vibrating gently through the floor beneath him. Last night's discoveries had left him restless with excitement. The device in Lyra's quarters had revealed a star cluster previously uncharted, and something about the pattern seemed almost alive. Eli could feel the pull of curiosity stronger than ever. Lyra was already awake, standing by the window that looked out at the distant blue planet below. The sunlight glinted off her shimmering hair, casting subtle reflections on the smooth walls. She turned to him, her expression both calm and expectant. "Ready to continue?" she asked. Eli nodded. Humans had a way of meeting challenges with quiet enthusiasm. "Yes," he said. "I want to see where this path leads." Lyra smiled faintly and gestured toward the device. Eli moved closer, his fingers hovering above the interface. The holographic map from yesterday had shifted slightly. It seemed to respond to his presence, as if aware that a human mind was once again studying it. "Do you notice how it moves differently when you approach?" Lyra asked. Eli traced his fingers gently across the symbols. "It's like it knows what I'm thinking," he said. "Not exactly, of course, but it reacts to the way I interpret the patterns. It's subtle, but it's there." The map unfolded further, revealing lines of energy connecting the newly discovered star cluster to several small planets nearby. Eli studied them carefully. Humans were often praised for their ability to connect ideas that seemed unrelated. That skill, he realized, was exactly what this device required. "These lines," Eli said, pointing to the glowing threads linking the planets, "they aren't just coordinates. They may indicate some kind of energy or information flow." Whoever created this wanted these connections to be found, understood, and used. Lyra's eyes widened. "Energy flow," she said. "We've never seen anything like that. Only humans, perhaps, could detect it this clearly." Eli smiled. "We notice things in context. Patterns that are invisible to strict logic become clear when you observe connections, even subtle ones. That's something humans do naturally." The two of them spent hours studying the interface, Eli tracing the lines with a careful, intuitive touch. Every so often, he paused, leaning back on the bed, thinking aloud. Humans had a habit of asking questions that seemed obvious but were often overlooked. His questions prompted Lyra to examine the patterns differently, to consider possibilities she had not imagined. "This cluster here," Eli said finally, pointing to a glowing orb in the holographic map, "seems to be the origin of the energy threads. It might hold information or knowledge left intentionally. It could even be a communication hub from a civilization long gone." Lyra leaned closer, intrigued. "And the other planets? They appear to be points along the path," Eli explained. "They may amplify, store, or redirect the energy. Each one has a role. It's like a network carefully constructed for discovery." Lyra's eyes shone with admiration. "You're interpreting it differently, Eli. Most would see only symbols, but you see purpose." Eli nodded. "Humans have always needed to see purpose, even in chaos. Perhaps that's why we survive, why we explore, why we adapt." Lyra paused, her expression thoughtful. "It's remarkable. I wondered if a human mind could navigate this interface. Now I see that you do not just navigate it, you understand it." Eli smiled faintly. "Understanding comes from curiosity, patience, and imagination. Logic alone is not enough." They decided to simulate a projection of the first planet along the path. As Eli traced the connection on the interface, a three-dimensional projection of the planet appeared above it. The surface was barren at first glance, but subtle energy fields shimmered across the terrain. "Look at these patterns," Eli said, pointing. "They correspond to the lines on the map. Whoever made this structured it so the energy flows are visible only when interpreted correctly." Lyra's gaze followed his hand. "It's like a language written in energy." "Yes," Eli said. "And humans can read it intuitively if they are patient and observant." He studied the energy flows carefully, noting how they pulsed in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "These are signals, not just energy," he said. "They carry information. We could learn something important if we follow them correctly." Lyra looked impressed. "And you think we should?" Eli nodded. "Absolutely. Humans have a way of connecting with things that seem alien. Sometimes intuition guides us where logic cannot." The two of them spent the rest of the morning analyzing the other planets along the path. Each one had subtle differences, small anomalies that suggested intentional design. Eli's approach, watching, thinking, touching with care, allowed them to interpret patterns the aliens themselves had overlooked. Your mind works differently, Lyra said finally. Not just logically, but with imagination, curiosity, and sensitivity. It's uniquely human. Eli chuckled softly. We've had to be. In our early history, noticing what others ignored often meant survival. Curiosity and intuition are skills that keep us alive. By the afternoon, Eli and Lyra had plotted a potential route through the star cluster, marking planets that were likely significant. The interface pulsed in response, highlighting each one with a gentle glow. It seemed almost alive, as if acknowledging their progress. Eli reclined on the bed, feeling the warmth beneath him. The comfort of the quarters, the gentle hum of the station, and the quiet pulse of the interface created an environment where ideas flowed freely. Humans had always excelled in such moments, where observation and comfort met curiosity and insight. Lyra observed him quietly. "It's fascinating," she said. "I never imagined that simple intuition could achieve what rigorous analysis could not." "That's humans," Eli replied. "We see the unseen, notice the unnoticed, and ask questions that others dismiss. It's not magic, just a habit." Hours passed, and Eli continued tracing the paths, discovering subtle connections between planets, energy flows, and projected information. The more he explored, the more it became clear that the device was designed to reveal knowledge gradually, requiring a patient mind and a willingness to see patterns beyond the obvious. "This may change everything," Lyra said finally, awe in her voice. "If we can understand these connections, we could map previously unknown networks, perhaps even communicate with distant systems in ways we never imagined." Eli nodded. "Yes, and it all began because someone trusted that a human mind could unlock it. Sometimes the right mind is all it takes to understand the universe." As evening approached, the glow of the device softened, casting a gentle light over the room. Eli traced one final pattern before stepping back. A new point of light appeared on the map, distant and faint, but pulsing in a rhythm that felt familiar. Lyra leaned closer. "Do you feel that?" Eli did. The pulse resonated with a warmth that was both physical and emotional. It was as if the distant point was alive, responding only to the attention of a human observer. "It's waiting," he said softly, "waiting for someone to notice it. Someone patient, curious, and willing to explore. That's humans." Lyra smiled. "Then perhaps it was meant for you all along." Eli looked at the distant point, feeling the thrill of discovery and the pull of curiosity. Humans had always been explorers, seekers, and observers. And now, on this distant station, that same human curiosity was about to lead them to new worlds, new knowledge, and new understanding. He reclined once more, letting the warmth of the bed and the station envelop him. The device pulsed gently, the holographic stars shifting as if acknowledging their progress. Eli realized that the unknown was not something to fear, but something to engage with, guided by intuition, observation, and human insight. And as the first stars of evening appeared beyond the window, Eli understood that his journey was only beginning. The path ahead was full of mysteries, waiting for a human mind to navigate. Humans had always thrived on curiosity, imagination, and patience. And now, far from Earth, Eli felt the strength of those traits as he prepared to explore the unknown. The next morning, Eli woke to the soft hum of the station once again. Lyra had already begun preparations for a small exploratory mission. Though the star cluster and planets they had uncovered were still distant, Eli could feel the pulse of possibilities growing stronger. The device's energy patterns had highlighted several planets that seemed rich in information or resources, waiting for discovery. "Good morning, Eli," Lyra greeted him as he stepped into the corridor. "Are you ready to continue?" Eli nodded. Humans had a way of embracing challenges with quiet enthusiasm. "Absolutely. I want to see where the paths lead." Lyra led him to a control room that overlooked the docking bay. Small ships, sleek and elegant, were being prepared for remote exploration. Eli watched as the aliens calibrated instruments, their precise movements efficient but lacking the flexibility of improvisation. Humans often approach problems differently, Eli said quietly, almost to himself. We adapt, improvise, and sometimes ignore instructions when curiosity calls. Lyra glanced at him, a small smile forming. That may be exactly what is needed here. Eli approached the control panel, studying the interface. The map of the star cluster appeared once more, lines of energy connecting planets in intricate patterns. It was clear that following these paths required more than simple navigation. Intuition, observation, and careful experimentation would be necessary. "Which planet first?" Eli asked, pointing at a glowing orb. Lyra studied it for a moment. "This one," she said. "It seems to amplify energy signals. If we can understand it, we may interpret the entire network more clearly." Eli nodded. Humans had always excelled at exploring the unknown, especially when flexibility and careful observation were required. He adjusted controls with quiet precision, guiding the ship along the path while Lyra monitored the energy fields. As they approached the planet, the holographic map projected its surface in 3 dimensions. It appeared barren at first glance, but Eli noticed subtle fluctuations in energy that suggested hidden patterns. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the pulsing energy streams. "They align with the network lines on the map. Whoever designed this intended for it to be interpreted carefully. It's almost like a puzzle waiting for the right mind." Lyra nodded. "And that mind is human." Eli smiled faintly. Humans had a knack for noticing things others overlooked. They asked questions, made connections, and often solved problems without realizing it. That same skill now guided him as he navigated the planet's energy fields. He adjusted the instruments, tracing the flows with patience. The lines pulsed in response, almost as if acknowledging his touch. The aliens operating the station observed silently, clearly amazed at his intuitive approach. "This is remarkable," Lyra said softly. "You don't just follow patterns, you feel them, understand them." "It's uniquely human." Eli paused, leaning closer to the controls. "Humans have always relied on observation, empathy, and intuition. When logic alone fails, these traits allow us to succeed." As they explored, Eli noticed subtle anomalies, tiny variations in the energy fields that suggested communication. He traced them carefully, interpreting their rhythm, sequence, and intensity. Slowly, a message began to form, encoded in the pulses of energy. "Do you see that?" Eli asked, pointing to the patterns. "It's not just energy, it's information structured in a way that requires patience and understanding to decode." Lyra's eyes widened. "A message from whom?" "That I don't know yet," Eli admitted. "But it's clear it was intended to be discovered by someone like us, patient, observant, and curious." Hours passed as they worked together, the ship hovering over the planet's surface. Eli's human touch allowed them to interpret the energy flows in ways the aliens could not. Each small discovery revealed another layer of the network, slowly constructing a map of knowledge hidden across the cluster. "This is incredible," Lyra said finally. "Your intuition has unlocked more than decades of research could." Eli leaned back in his seat, smiling faintly. "Humans have always thrived on curiosity. We notice the unseen, connect the unconnected, and ask questions others dismiss. It's a habit, really, not a talent." As evening approached, the station's lights dimmed slightly, creating a calm environment. Eli continued exploring the energy patterns, tracing them across the map, discovering subtle signals that suggested additional layers of information on other planets. "Humans truly are remarkable," Lyra said quietly, almost to herself. "It's not just knowledge or technology. It's your approach, your patience, your perception." Eli nodded. Sometimes the smallest observation can make the biggest difference. We humans have learned to notice what others ignore. That's how we survive and thrive. They traced another path to a distant planet, following faint energy threads. The surface appeared more complex, with small crystalline structures that pulse softly in rhythm with the network. Eli's fingers danced across the controls, adjusting readings, observing patterns, and interpreting fluctuations. "Do you feel it?" Eli asked. "These structures respond to attention. They're almost alive." Lyra stepped closer, fascinated. "Alive or designed to appear that way?" "Perhaps both," Eli said. "Humans have always been able to perceive life or intention even where others see only matter. It's instinct, observation, and curiosity combined." As they mapped the structures, Eli noticed subtle interactions between the crystals and the energy network. Each one seemed to store information, amplifying signals in ways that required a careful, patient touch to understand. "This is exactly why humans were needed here," Lyra said. "We could not have discovered this without you." Eli smiled faintly, leaning back. "It's what we do. Not better or worse than anyone else, just different. Sometimes that's enough to make a difference." They spent the night analyzing the data, discovering hidden connections, and interpreting the energy flows. Eli's patience, intuition, and curiosity allowed them to make progress far beyond what had seemed possible. The aliens operating the station watched silently, clearly learning from his approach. By the time morning arrived, they had mapped several planets, revealing a network of information that suggested not only communication but also knowledge storage. Eli realized that this cluster was more than a set of planets. It was a library, encoded in energy, waiting for understanding. "This network," Lyra said finally, "was designed to be discovered, to be understood by someone like you, patient, curious, and willing to explore." Eli nodded. Humans had always been explorers, seekers, and problem solvers. And now, on this distant station, their natural traits were unlocking mysteries no alien mind could fully comprehend. He looked out at the distant stars, feeling the thrill of discovery and the pull of curiosity. Humans had always thrived by asking questions, noticing patterns, and following intuition. And now, far from Earth, that same human touch was opening doors to new knowledge and understanding. Lyra placed a hand lightly on the controls, smiling. "Your human touch is remarkable. I think we are only beginning to understand what it can do." Eli smiled, leaning back in the warm bed. The station's gentle hum, the soft glow of the interface, and the pulse of energy from the planets created an environment where discovery flowed naturally. Humans had always excelled in such moments, where comfort, observation, and curiosity combined to create insight. And as he prepared for the next stage of exploration, Eli knew that the unknown was not something to fear. It was something to engage with, guided by intuition, patience, and the uniquely human ability to notice the unnoticed. The path ahead was vast and mysterious, but Eli felt ready. Humans had always navigated the unknown before, through curiosity, imagination, and the courage to explore. And now, on this distant station, those same traits were about to illuminate the secrets of the stars. Eli woke to a soft, golden light filtering through Lyra's quarters. The distant stars glimmered against the dark expanse of space outside the station's large window. He stretched, feeling the gentle warmth of the bed beneath him, a quiet reminder that comfort could inspire thought just as much as the mind itself. Today was different. The energy patterns they had traced over the past days suggested a final destination, a point in the star cluster that pulsed with stronger signals than anything they had yet encountered. Eli could feel it calling him, or perhaps, more accurately, inviting him. Humans had a habit of responding to subtle cues, sensing possibilities that others missed. This was exactly the kind of moment where that trait mattered. Lyra was already at the interface, adjusting the holographic map to focus on the distant pulsing point. "Eli," she said softly, "this is it, the source of the network's energy. If we understand this, we can unlock the entire system." Eli approached, studying the glowing patterns. The energy threads converged here, pulsing rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. It was clear that this point was central, not only in location but in meaning. Humans had always been drawn to central questions, the core of mysteries, and Eli's intuition told him this was no exception. "Do you feel that?" he asked, gesturing to the pulsing point. "It's almost alive, not in the way we think of life but in the way it responds to attention and thought." Lyra nodded. "Yes, we cannot fully understand it, but perhaps you can." Eli smiled faintly. Humans had a knack for perceiving intention and connection where others saw only objects. It was curiosity, patience, and empathy combined, a trait that had allowed humanity to thrive for millennia. And now, it was guiding him toward this mysterious source. He reached out, placing his hands gently on the interface. The holographic projection responded immediately, lines of energy shifting and pulsing in harmony with his movements. The patterns were complex, almost overwhelming, but Eli did not panic. Humans were uniquely suited to moments like this, noticing subtleties, interpreting patterns, and trusting intuition over rigid calculation. "Follow the rhythm," he said to Lyra. "It's not just about observation. It's about listening, feeling the flow." Lyra watched silently, her expression filled with awe. "I think humans were always meant to do this," she murmured. Eli traced the energy lines carefully, feeling the pulse grow stronger with each touch. Slowly, the patterns began to form shapes not random but deliberate. Symbols appeared that suggested knowledge and history, a message encoded in energy for those capable of understanding it. Humans, with their ability to connect the unseen, were exactly what was needed. "This is incredible," Lyra whispered. "It's a record." Knowledge left intentionally. "Yes," Eli said softly, "not just information, but understanding. Whoever created this wanted it to be discovered by someone capable of interpreting it, not just reading it." He spent hours tracing the sequences, interpreting the pulses, and decoding subtle variations. The aliens observed, fascinated by his approach. Eli's human traits, patience, curiosity, empathy, and intuitive reasoning, allowed him to make sense of patterns that logic alone could not unlock. "The network, it's more than a library," Eli said finally. "It's a map of understanding. The energy threads connect planets, ideas, and histories. Whoever made this wanted to share knowledge, but only with those who could truly perceive it." Lyra nodded, admiration shining in her eyes. "And humans, you can." Eli smiled faintly. Humans had always excelled at bridging gaps between cultures, ideas, and even species. Now, far from Earth, that same ability was bridging the unknown, connecting the present to a legacy left in energy patterns across distant worlds. He continued decoding the sequences, and slowly, a coherent message emerged. It spoke of exploration, collaboration, and the importance of curiosity. It was clear that the civilization that created this network had intended it for minds capable of empathy and insight, minds like humans. "Lyra," Eli said, pointing to the final glowing symbol, "look at this. They trusted that the right beings would find this. And it seems we are the first capable of understanding it fully." She leaned closer, her eyes wide with amazement. "This is remarkable. Humans are being recognized not just for skill, but for perspective, for intuition, patience, and curiosity." "Yes," Eli said softly. "Humans have always thrived by noticing what others overlooked. That's how we survive, how we explore, and how we leave a mark." The pulsing point of energy responded to their attention, projecting a soft, glowing light that filled the room. Eli could feel it resonating not just physically, but emotionally. The warmth of understanding, the connection between intention and perception, was palpable. Humans had always been capable of forming such connections, and now that trait had unlocked the knowledge of a lost civilization. Lyra reached out, her hand brushing against the interface. "It's as if it recognizes your presence," she whispered. "Your human touch, it responds to you." Eli nodded. Humans had always been able to form bonds with environments, creatures, and objects alike. It was empathy, perception, and intuition combined. And this was the ultimate demonstration of that ability. A network designed to communicate with beings capable of noticing, interpreting, and responding thoughtfully. By the end of the day, they had mapped the entire network, understanding the flow of energy and knowledge across the star cluster. The information was vast, revealing secrets of planets, histories of civilizations, and methods of collaboration that had been lost to time. "This changes everything," Lyra said softly. "With this knowledge, we could connect systems, understand energy flows, and perhaps prevent future mistakes, all because a human mind could interpret it." Eli leaned back, feeling the warmth of the bed and the satisfaction of discovery. Humans had always excelled in such moments, where observation, curiosity, and intuition combined to create understanding. And now, far from Earth, that same ability had illuminated mysteries that no alien mind alone could solve. He turned to Lyra. "Sometimes it's not strength or technology that matters most, it's perspective. Humans have a habit of noticing the unseen, of connecting what others ignore. That's how we leave a mark." Lyra smiled. "And what a mark it is. I think we are only beginning to see what humans can do." Eli looked out at the stars beyond the window, feeling a sense of connection to both the universe and humanity itself. Curiosity, patience, empathy, and intuition. Those traits had always guided humans, from the first steps on Earth to the exploration of distant galaxies. And here they were proving their worth once again. The interface pulsed gently, as if acknowledging their understanding. The network was complete, a library and map of knowledge unlocked by human insight. Eli realized that sometimes the smallest acts, noticing a pattern, asking a question, trusting intuition, could open doors to the universe. Lyra placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You've shown us what humans can do, Eli. Not through force, but through thought, empathy, and observation. That is a power unlike any other." Eli smiled faintly. Humans had always thrived on curiosity and perception. They had always succeeded by noticing what others missed. And now, on this distant station, that same human touch had illuminated the mysteries of the stars. As evening fell, Eli reclined on the bed, the warmth of the quarters embracing him. The pulsing point of energy in the star cluster seemed to resonate in time with his own heartbeat, a quiet acknowledgement of discovery. Humans had always been explorers, seekers, and interpreters. And now, far from Earth, their traits had unlocked a legacy that had waited for the right mind to understand it. Lyra watched him with quiet admiration. "The warmth you brought," she said softly, "is not just in this room or this interface. It's in how you think, how you observe, and how you connect. That is the true power of humanity." Eli closed his eyes for a moment, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. Humans had always known that curiosity, patience, and intuition could solve problems that seemed impossible. They had always known that understanding and empathy were as powerful as strength or technology. And now, on this distant station, far from Earth, those traits had unlocked knowledge beyond imagination, proving that the human touch, quiet, thoughtful, and curious, could illuminate the universe itself. As the stars outside shimmered against the darkness, Eli realized something profound. Humans were not just explorers of planets and stars. They were explorers of understanding, perception, and connection. And in that, they had left a mark that would resonate across time and space. The warmth of the bed, the soft hum of the station, and the gentle glow of the interface all reminded him that discovery did not come from force. It came from patience, curiosity, and the uniquely human ability to see what others could not. And in that warmth, Eli understood fully. Humans had always been meant to lead not by domination, but by insight, perception, and the courage to notice the unseen. The network of energy threads pulsed softly in response, acknowledging the human touch that had unlocked its secrets. And as Eli lay back, he knew that the future, for humans, aliens, and the stars themselves, was brighter for it.